Hey everybody, I've got a video here for you today, and of course I'm talking about the Shroud again, after I said repeatedly over the past year I would never talk about this subject again, but that's only because I've had some questions and comments sent to me, and I want to thank everybody who sent me some questions, because I had the very same questions a long time ago, so no question is too simple on the Shroud, and a lot of comments and this and that. So I just wanted to talk about a few of them because I have returned a few of the messages I have gotten, but I don't want to ignore some, and a few of them deal with the same subject. I'm sure there's tons of questions people still have on this, but I'm going to try to put it into a whole complete form, because there's a lot of stuff I haven't mentioned that is, when I even listen to myself say it, it sounds crazy, so I need to have it in a whole complete form in order for the crazy stuff to make sense to you. But one of the questions and a lot of the comments, it's a hoax. It's a 700-year-old fake. And truly, that's where I thought my research would go. And I don't have an agenda or bias, people. This is just like any of my other videos. I am just relaying what history tells us. That's all I'm doing. I don't have an agenda or bias, and I knew when I was researching this, I would have to throw out any belief or non-belief I had in the biblical text and just look at it from an historical perspective. And that's truly why the history of this hasn't been brought out, because the people researching the Shroud are trying to prove it's the biblical Jesus, or they're trying to prove it's a complete hoax. So who's investigating where this really comes from? A few people are, and there's a few people that are going down the same road as I have, and I'm sure some of you have seen those videos, and there's actually been some books written that this was the spark of Christianity. So if I'm going to put it into a complete form, I just have to choose kind of which form that goes. And there are some people very interested in what I have to say on this subject, and I'm not going to speak any more on this matter, but it'll be interesting to put this into a complete form because it's just a truly amazing subject. And I have left links in a lot of my videos, so I'm giving you the keys if you want to research this. And the people who just totally disregard it, they think Jesus, anything to do with Jesus. No, I'm not going to believe that for a second. Well, you people are sitting on the wrong side of the fence and don't even know it. And I've stated that once, and I'll say it again. And this is just a whole crazy subject. But for it to be a 700-year-old forgery takes way more miracles than some of the theories on how this was originally made. And that's one of the great mysteries about the Shroud. We still do not know how this was made, but in its 2,000-year-old history, it's only been really researched properly for a few days. So, and that was 37 years ago or so. So if proper research was done with instruments we have today, I think we might maybe get a handle on how this was made. But it was truly a miracle of divine proportions for these people of Odessa, Turkey, who were the original owners or controllers of the Shroud. And it was put into ceremonies that literally, the text says, had people shuddering in their seats. And it's called the Grail ceremony. And I have talked about this, but I want to move over to the pyramid text online, the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Mysteries of Amenta, and this was done by E.A. Wallace Budge. And I am just going to read something that I found truly incredible. Chapter 162 contains the most secret, most sacred, the greatest of all mysteries. Its name is the Book of the Hidden Dwelling, that is, the Book of Amenta, or the Ritual of Resurrection. Obscure as these mysteries may seem on account of the form, that of dramatic monologue and soliloquy, that the brevity of statement, we can recognize enough to know that these are the originals of all other mysteries, Gnostic, Kabbalistic, Masonic, or Christian. The dogma of the Incarnation was an Egyptian mystery. Baptismal regeneration, transfiguration, transubstantiation, the resurrection and ascension were all Egyptian mysteries. The mystery of an ever-virgin mother, the mystery of a boy at 12 years of age transforming suddenly into an adult of 30 years, and then becoming one with the Father, as it had been earlier in the mysteries of totemism, the mystery in which the dead body of Osiris is transubstantiated into the living Horus by descent of the bird-headed Holy Spirit, the mystery of a divine being in three persons, one of which takes flesh on earth as the human Horus, to become a mummy as Osiris in Amenta, and to rise up from the dead in a spirit as Ra in heaven. These and other miracles of the Christian faith were already extant among the mysteries of Amenta. And I just want to go back to this. The mystery of an ever-virgin mother, the mystery of a boy at 12 years of age transforming suddenly into an adult of 30 years, and then becoming one with the Father. This is the exact ceremony done in Edessa, Turkey, where they used to show the image of a young boy, then an adult, and the final, they showed the shroud in its full form. This is the original ceremony, which they call the Grail ceremony, which is the gradual revealing of a boy, an adult, and then the image of becoming one with the Father, which they use the shroud in. This is the Grail ceremony. This is the origin of the Holy Grail. And this is actually an Egyptian ceremony ritual. The Holy Grail comes from Egypt. I find that amazing. Everything we know about the origins of the Holy Grail can be traced to what we know today as the Shroud of Turin. And some of the comments that I've been getting about it being a fake, a forgery, and here I just had one. Of course it was made 700 years ago. You still think it is real? Oh my God. Yeah, well, I know it's real. And anybody thinking still that it's a 700-year-old forgery, it just shows me how truly ignorant they are on the subject. And that's fine. I was ignorant too until I researched it. But everything we know connects it to the image of Edessa, and everything we know about it connects it to the Holy Grail, and everything we know about it connects it to the Gnostic text and the origin of Christianity. And people have said, this is Da Vinci. Da Vinci made it. And really, I would have loved to go down that avenue of research. I think that would have been truly fascinating if Leonardo did create this. But actually, something that I'm going to put into my complete form of my knowledge on the Shroud, Leonardo knew exactly the edict that was put out about 1700 years ago when the Pope and Emperor said that the Eucharist shall be served as if it were the burial linen of Christ, with the blood representing the blood on the burial cloth, and the bread representing the body on the burial cloth. Leonardo knew that, and I can prove it with his own words, and that is exactly why you see what we know today as the Shroud of Turin. In the Last Supper portrait, the Holy Grail is really in there, and I can prove it with Leonardo's own words. You'll have to wait quite a while for that total, full-length form of whatever it takes to come out. But the Holy Grail is ancient Egyptian. I find that amazing. Now let me read a little more, and this talks about Horus. It says, and in the next stage of transformation, he will be altogether freed from the trammels of the mummy to become pure spirit in the likeness of the Father as the express image of his person. And that is precisely why the Shroud was so important to these Egyptian Parthian rulers of Edessa, Turkey. That is just so clear right there, and that traces the original origins of Christianity precisely back to the religious text of the ancient Egyptians, the most ancient text. And let me just go on reading a little bit about Horus. In this character he was set forth as the first fruits of them that slept, the only one that came forth from the mummy on earth, as the Sahu mummy in Amenta, the only one, however, as the type that prefigured potential continuity for all, the doctrine being founded on the ghost as the phenomenal apparition of an eternal reality. And boy, that really nails the original Christ story to the Egyptian text, and the shroud to the original Egyptian book of coming forth by day. Now, let me just finish off with this. And I read this paragraph in my Sphinx Temple identification video, where the ancient Egyptians give up the name of the ancient temple in Rostau, and this can only be the Sphinx Temple. It says, I have been in the temple of Tep-2F. He that is on his hill, or Anubis, and I have seen him that is Lord of the divine temple. I have entered into the temple of Osiris, and I have arrayed myself in the apparel of him that is therein. I have entered into Rostau, and I have seen the hidden things which are therein. I was shrouded, but I found a way for myself. I have gone into the city of An-Naret. I have covered my nakedness with the garments which were therein. And he talks about the spirit and being shrouded in a naked body by a garment upon death. Wow, that is the most incredible paragraph I have ever read in all my research. It gives up the name of the temple on the Giza Plateau that we know as the Sphinx Temple today. It's really Anubis. And in the sentences thereafter lies the whole reason the Shroud of Turin was so important and why it was the birth of Christianity. And that, if it mentions the Temple of Anubis, that is pre-dynastic. As I said, things get crazy, and just wait till I put this into a whole form, because you will not believe your ears, because frankly, when I repeat it, I don't believe it myself, and this is a perfect lead-in. This whole shroud thing and how it connects to ancient Egypt is a perfect lead-in for my next research video coming next weekend, which will be the symbolism on the Giza Plateau. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.